It does not take much for me to enjoy something that I am experiencing. This is a big reason why I have stuck with watching anime for so long. If I were to separate every anime that I have ever watched into scores of 5 and below and scores of 6 and above, the list would seem very skewed to the latter. But while that may be the case, it is not always easy to say that an anime has left me completely satisfied. Probably the only two anime that I can confidently say fulfill that criteria are my two favorite anime, Monster and Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood. The thing is that for these two anime, they have the freedom of having more than 50 episodes to tell their tales. For most anime, it would be pretty difficult to pull that off with less than 20 episodes. Planet with an incredibly well-paced story that wasted little time on its material, but felt like it could have been a little longer. Bakano was an amazing mystery story that wrapped all of its confusing elements together, but not entirely everything that it could have covered. And even an anime like A Place Further Than the Universe, which I loved true and true, does make me feel like the adventure could have lasted a little longer. So, what if I told you that there is an anime which not only did I think was perfect, but also left me so satisfied that I do not want it to be meddled with any further? And what if I told you that this anime was only 12 episodes long? On the 21st of September 2019, I have found my favorite short anime of all time, Astra Lost in Space. Astra Lost in Space introduces us to several students of Karat High School who have been selected to participate in a field trip to planet Magpa organized by the school. They were to be picked up from the planet after 5 days of exploring the planet. However, tragedy struck as a mysterious sphere appeared out of nowhere and sucked the students in, transporting them into deep space. And soon after, the students realized that they were a really long way from home. Now, before we move on any further, I would like to clarify that this video will contain major spoilers ahead. So, if you haven't already and are wary of spoilers, feel free to click away and come back after you have finished the anime. And with that, let's continue. I will admit that the anime, while making me very excited to watch it, mainly because it was done by Studio Lerche, which I really loved, didn't have the most impressive first impression. If you were to consider Astra Lost in Space using the 3-episode rule, I probably would not be able to argue with your decision to drop the anime. From these episodes, it looked like a pretty simple survival story involving a bunch of students trying to find their way home in space. The characters do face several hazards along the way, be it being attacked by alien creatures or having their spaceship being hit by space debris. But all the while, it didn't seem like there was much of a risk involved in any of these situations, as many of these students tend to have their own unique abilities with dealing with obstacles. Not to mention, it made me feel a little iffy with how early on it was revealed to the crew members that there was a traitor amongst them. It made it feel like the anime was moving a little bit too fast for my liking, and probably my biggest gripe with the show being the nick of time cliche being used when the spaceship nearly crashed on the planet Shimor. So far, I seem to have already listed out many flaws from the anime just based on its first 3 episodes. You might be wondering then, what the heck was I talking about at the beginning of the video? Well, as it turns out, this was all a setup for what would become the craziest ride in anime ever. How do you create a good mystery? Of course, there must first be a question that is not easy to answer. But at the same time, there should be clues throughout the investigation that slowly link everything together. Now, what if we start off with one question, only to be hit with more and more questions, as if it would become too much to handle, but somehow answers every one of those questions? That is the true nature of Astra Lost in Space. It is an anime that gives a whole new meaning to the term plot twist. From the simple question of what on earth was that glowing sphere that sent the students 5,000 light years away from home, all the way to what is the true nature of the planet that the students call home? With every episode, I became more and more confused, only to become more and more stunned with every new reveal. And the thing is that it all seems to click together. What was the sphere? A wormhole developed by man. Why was there a wormhole that sucked the students to space? Because there was a traitor amongst the group. Why did the traitor do what he did? Because he was instructed by the king. Why did the king give that instruction? Because the Genome Control Act posed a risk for him along with several other people for creating clones. Why did they create clones? To experiment in the memory transfer research for rejuvenation. Why did they decide to kill the clones by throwing them into space, so that no traces were left behind? Why did the students end up 5,000 light years away above an icy planet? Because that was the planet Earth, the original home of humanity. Why is that planet lifeless? Because it was struck by a giant asteroid. How did people move to the new planet, Astra? Using the wormholes. I could go on and on and on about how all of these different elements connect to one another to create a story so damn complicated, but somehow so damn complete. Like seriously, answering the question of why the students were being disposed of was already a lot to take in. To think that the anime would give a whole showcase about the history of how humanity has conquered a new planet, all by tackling a seemingly unnecessary question as, why did the students pop out above that particular planet? I literally had to pause the episode in order to take a breather. Even on a realism standpoint, the anime portrays the dark truths of human nature in a very believable sense. For example, on how the development of wormholes for instant space travel also sparked the rise in terrorism, or how the act of cloning or murder was kept under wraps because it was governed by people with power. Not to mention, tossing the thought of the harsh but loving parent concept completely out of the window. It is entirely possible for a parent to not always be a good person, and it is also entirely possible for a new world governed by a new system to alter history and silence the population, especially since the population was significantly reduced due to intense warfare. And it is definitely possible for governments to completely overturn laws and policies depending on the circumstances in the world. Even if we were to move away from the big picture of planetary history, special care given to explaining several coincidences, such as finding Palina's spaceship so easily because of the narrow habitable zone of planet Icarus, or finding the spaceship Astra so easily because it was knocked out of orbit by the asteroid, or even Augur having such good marksmanship because he was trying to assassinate his brother's killer, while still feeling like plot conveniences, just shows how much the author cared when creating this story. Not only that, just by focusing on all the simple things that the anime has to offer, it is easy to find something to enjoy. The anime, while not having anything spectacular in terms of animation, was visually pleasing, and Studio Lerche did a fine job with that. I've had some good laughs from this anime, especially during the confession between Katori and Zack, a heartwarming yet insane moment that stands out amongst any confession I've seen in anime. I was left feeling sad so many times from all the stories from these characters, especially the one involving Charles and Sarah. I was left feeling anxious for the safety of the characters, especially when they got stranded on planet Icarus, and even with a bit of fan service thrown in to ease all of that tension used so moderately. But most importantly, I had so much fun trying to predict what was going on. With so many clever twists and turns, and even a twist within a twist, it made me disregard Charles being the traitor of the group until his identity was revealed. Then there are times I guessed it right, with my proudest guess being the time I figured out the connection between Ares and Sarah, right around here, which I then paused the video and went, Ares and Sarah? A-R-I-E-S. If you flipped it over, oh my god! And how can we talk about Astra Lost in Space without mentioning the utter satisfaction of seeing the culprits being sent to prison? The fact that the stakes were so high for our main characters, with almost every guarantee that they would not survive this long and dangerous adventure, makes that moment all the more worth it. And all of this leads to a grand epilogue, which was the thing that sold me immediately with the finale, because an anime with a decently length epilogue always tends to feel more satisfying than an anime without one. And this epilogue did not disappoint, showing the lives of the characters 7 years after they have returned to Astra. It's things like these that feel like the perfect reward for all of that mind-boggery after 12 episodes. And it definitely felt like an immensely long journey, because I had completely forgotten about Kanata's teacher, who was introduced in episode 1. Having him see an illusion of his teacher was the perfect way to bring all of these 12 episodes into full circle. And as the credits rolled in, I tried to think of any possible way that this anime could have ended better. But for once, I just couldn't. They'd done it. A truly satisfying ending, and I have never felt the need to give an anime the 10 out of 10 score as quickly as I did. As I give my final thoughts on Astra Lost in Space, I know that even this lengthy video would not do the anime justice. There is just so much to cover for this anime, but I think I have made my point very clear. These 12 episodes were the most satisfying combination of an anime of its length. And thanks to Ando Masaomi, a brilliant director in my opinion, who worked once again with Kaiho Norimitsu, the author and writer of Gakko Gurashi. Also, Shinohara Kenta being the original author for Astra Lost in Space. And of course, Studio Lerche. I was able to experience this grand adventure. But as usual, it is no guarantee that everyone will end up seeing this anime being as great as I thought it was. I can even say that a major reason for people feeling turned off by the anime is its constant shift in tone. But for me, it's probably going to be a while before I can firmly say that another anime has overtaken the top spot for my favorite short anime ever. It would be great when that moment comes. Until then, I will keep Astra Lost in Space in my thoughts and continue to be baffled by what I have experienced, at least for a little while longer. 2019 has proven itself, so 2020, show me what you've got. Aye. Yeah!